Everybody, we are running back the list from yesterday. I want to play a little bit more of it. The Esper Reanimator deck featuring Aethermage's Touch. We have a chest cold open. Welcome my children to the Shark Typhoon. I am your beloved leader and only hope for innovation in the modern format. Aspiring Spike. As you all know, my guiding principle in Magic is innovate and iterate. We're following my mantra today with some interesting new cards. The Reanimation Shell. Can we resurrect some trophies or hopes and dreams around our graveyard? Stay tuned to find out. Help the channel by leaving a like, share, sub, follow, comment, support the sponsors. This deck was really fun yesterday. Felt pretty powerful. The big idea is that Aethermage's Touch gives you an extra way to cheat big creatures into play, which has always been something that this deck has been pretty desperate for, because really Persist is the only good way to do it before. If you don't play like Indomitable Creativity and like the red version. And the idea is that you could set up for an Aethermage's Touch by putting the creature that you want on top with Witch's Cottage. Ideally an Archon of Cruelty, but Solitude, Mulldrifter, Grief are, solid hits too. Some percentage of the time you have to kind of trust that you're gonna hit something off this. I think you're around like 72, 73, 74% to hit, depending on how the fetch lands impact the math. But deck was really fun. I've been having a blast with it. And then, so we're going to play 1 or 2 leagues with this version. And then I want to play 1 or 2 leagues with the Goryo's Vengeance version. This is also a deck we worked on in the past. All right, we can keep this on the draw. Yeah. I got a second copy of the full art Mulldrifter. That's still the only one I could find, but I will slowly acquire the rest of my collection. So we're up against a Spirebluff Canal. I certainly hope that we're up against Living End and not Murktide, but we'll see. Okay, looks like Murktide. Not that Murktide's a bad matchup, just that Living End is your best matchup. I also have a new full art Raffine's Tower that I didn't know existed. Okay, interesting pickup here. I got mails and Thoughtseize mail for a Spike-themed team tournament coming up. All my teammates are going to be on Spicy Spike Brews. That's exciting. What's the rest of the team playing? I think I'm going to play this Tainted Indulgence now. Okay, interesting. I think I'm discarding Mulldrifter and probably trying to Persist Ephemerate that next turn. Chainer, I think that's 60 months. Appreciate you. Aethermage in my instep. Yeah, either in your own instep or on your opponent's turn is when you're gonna cast it. In this matchup, you're gonna do it in your own instep when your opponent's tapped out. I think a decent chunk of the time. Boros, Lotus, and Esper Food. Awesome. Ooh, Archon of Cruelty, a little too deep in the deck. I could maybe just go to discard here. I think I don't love that. Especially when, if this resolves, we get to discard anyways. Probably not going to resolve, though. But then next turn I can go Witch's Cottage, back Mulldrifter, cast Aethermage's Touch, get a Mulldrifter, hopefully get some good value. But it's got 5 cards in their hands. It's tapping 2 mana for a Ledger Shredder. So I'm going to yield to my instep here. Pass priority to my opponent, who's going to crack the... Oh, I was really hoping they would crack the fetch. That's okay. Yeah, I was hoping they would crack the fetch, and I was going to be able to Aethermage's Touch my Mulldrifter into play. Channeler. You see the green-black food deck doing well in Modern. I mean, that deck's fine. I really think that deck needs to be playing like 4 Ravenous Squirrel, though. But yeah, that deck is fine. Okay, Lightning Bolt me, they get a Connive, they get a Surveil. I think that the food strategies in general are really good against the Omnath decks, and solid against Murktide, Hammer Time, Living End, and so I think that's a pretty good formula at the moment. Okay, my opponent's gonna Murktide here, which they're gonna get they're gonna get smashed if they Murktide here. Okay. So I think we're going to Aethermage's Touch right now. Put a Mulldrifter on top. This has been my new Modern addiction. Maybe we'll also just hit Archon, which is always kind of a fun part about this. Opponent is reading the Aethermage's Touch. No, I'm just running the list back from yesterday. Obviously, I consider making some changes, but I'm pretty happy, to be honest, with where we are at the moment. Another Cottage, and a Grief, and another Ephemerate. I really don't want to pitch an Ephemerate if I can help it here, but I might just not be able to help it. If I Ephemerate my Mulldrifter and I don't draw a white card, it's pretty bad. It's really, really bad. I think I'm like enough ahead that I just shouldn't. I'm gonna go Solitude, stack the triggers like this, exile the Legislator before they're gonna get their Connive trigger, Ephemerate my Solitude, get rid of the Murktide Regent. I'll attack with my Mulldrifter because it's going back to my hand end of turn. And then I need to consider if I am going to fetch Shock or fetch a... I think this needs to give me a Godless Shrine at some point. Yeah, I think I'm just so ahead on cards. I think I should just prioritize not taking damage here. Okay. That was good enough. I'm going to bring in the Stony Silences to beat their Graveyard Hate, Ragavan Treasures, Mishra's Bauble, but mostly the Graveyard Hate. The Teferi Time Ravelers, cutting the Griefs to the 4th Ephemerate because I'm cutting the Griefs. Yeah, this deck has been really sweet. No, I'm still running the same list as yesterday. I don't know. It's like, obviously, like, there's a lot of things you could change, but I didn't really feel super confident in any of the changes we were discussing, like the first copy of Bending over the Teferi, Realm Razor, the sideboard over Terastodon. I just kind of wanted to run it back. I know that's not as exciting, but that's what I felt like doing. Gonna keep this hand. Shouldn't you cast Grief first to check for Force of Negation of their action? My opponent's not main decking Force of Negation. Nobody main decks Force of Negation to Murktide. And if I Grief first, I let my opponent connive with Ledger Shredder, which I think is going to be more of a concern than like playing around a random Force of Negation that they just don't have. They just never have it there. Don't be scared of monsters in the closet. Okay, put them all to 6, but they do have the dreaded turn 1 Ragavan. Especially like griefing first and then letting them trigger Connive, and then if they have one spell in hand, but then they draw another spell off the Connive, just a disaster. Alright, can we get a Solitude off the top? Yeah, I have a suspicion that the Goryo's version is not as good either. I also have a build. I think we do play at least one league of that today. I really think that losing Mulldrifter, speaking of Mulldrifter, is the big problem, at least for me. Okay, I think I'm... Well, maybe just discard the Swamp. Yeah. Why don't we want any discard against Izzet? So, I mean, this is like the... We've played this matchup a lot, like today and yesterday. And every single time we play this matchup, we have comments like, Spike, you don't want more prismatic endings, you don't want Thoughtseize, you don't want Grief. But we've gotten like 0 comments on like how we're fitting in like the discard that you want, you know? Like we have like probably 70 cards or something like that that's like reasonable to play in this matchup, but we only get to play 60 in the main deck, you know? So I'm of course open to suggestions, but I will be demanding suggestions. Do you bring in Force Prismatic? I don't bring in any Prismatic against Murktide. It's good against the turn 1 Ragavan, can sometimes answer Graveyard Hate. I believe Stony Silence is a more effective answer because it answers all of the Graveyard Hate the rest of the game, incidentally hits Bauble, which is a small thing, but it is a thing, and then also does turn off the mana generation from Ragavan, which is the most concerning part of it. And then beyond answering Ragavan, Prismatic Ending is pretty mediocre, I think. And like if you answer the Ragavan, then you're not answering the Graveyard Hate. Obviously, answering the Graveyard Hate is a big priority for this archetype. Speaking of Stony Silence, yeah, so I think I'm just playing Stony Silence, and then playing Godless Shrine tapped. And then next turn, I'm going to go for Aethermage's Touch. I'll just hope to spike that that Archon, maybe able to Ephemerate it. It's got 3 cards in their hand. Yeah, Teferi stopping, yeah. I mean, obviously, like, they hit the Teferi off the Ragavan, which really stinks, but it's okay. Likely to lose this one. Definitely, like, when they're on the play, they have Ragavan, they hit Teferi. It's a pretty bad combo. Gonna play it out, though. Is there some secret for Black Red to beat Tron against Smush? I think your favorite against Tron. Kroxa, Turok, Ragavan, Dothi. Voidwalker is the big secret. You have a game 1 and you can like cast their cards and their Ulamogs with it. That's like your best card. Alright, thank you for casting the bolt. Opponent. Be on the play. I suggest cutting Ephemerate through discard since our struggle is going to be resolving our creatures through counter magic, which discard helps with and Ephemerate does not. I think that's a fair suggestion. I think that you cannot cut all the copies of Ephemerate. I think that Ephemerate is too important of a card to cut all copies. Your Solitudes, Mulldrifters, Archons are much weaker without any copies of Ephemerate in the deck. I did trim 1 copy. I also think that, you know, especially with Aethermage's Touch being an instant, like, I haven't found it too difficult to navigate around permission. I think I put back the Cottage. It's pretty... I think I just have to play the Stony Silence on turn 2, right? Just too bad to Unmarked Grave and into Graveyard Hate here. But I do genuinely appreciate the suggestion, because, like, again... And in this matchup, we have like 70 cards that would be reasonable, but you have to play 60 of them. And I like my plan, but I'm not saying my plan is definitely the best. Is Stony for Bobble Ragavan? Yeah, Stony Silence stops Unlicensed Source and Relic of Progenitus, which my opponent is very likely to have sighted in this matchup. And so just like two, you know, this card basically reads 2 mana. You have no Graveyard Hate in the matchup, which is really relevant. And then it does incidentally also stop Mishra's Bauble and stops Ragavan. And stopping the mana generation from Ragavan is, like, weirdly enough, really big. I'm deeply scared of the way they're fetching. Oh yeah, they did just get Island. Not much to do about it. I didn't have any fetch lands myself. No fear. And maybe they just boarded it in. They don't necessarily have it in hand. Okay, definitely just gonna pass here. What about streaming a couple Unmarked Grave for Greaves? You have to have a creature return from the graveyard anyways. Discard helps your Grief resolves. I don't like Grief very much against Murktide. Like, you're 2-for-1ing yourself too often in a matchup against a deck with a million 1-for-1s. I don't hate the suggestion though, but I also think Unmarked Grave is like, you could trim 1 copy. I think that'd be fine, but ooh, I think that would be fine. But I'm not that interested in doing much more than that, I think. Unholy Heat their own Ledger Shredder for a Connive. This definitely does not sing songs of strength about their hand. Using that same logic, was going to be good against Black Red as well. Well, Black Red uses Dothi Voidwalker as their... wait, they discarded Otawara, so the rest of their hand is spells? They're playing Lantern? No! This feels so horrible. I've never... Why are they playing Lantern? They always play Relic and Hearse. Ah! Damn it. Feels so unlucky. Feels so unlucky. Golly. I can't remember the last time I saw freaking Soul Guide Lantern. I guess this is the meta adjusting, huh? Got another Unmarked Grave. Stony Silence seems lost to the sauce. You're absolutely wrong. I've played tons and tons of this deck. I've won a challenge with this deck. Stony Silence being, again, 2 mana. You have no Graveyard Hate is just so... It's so important. I can't overstate how important it is. I know my opponent played Soul Guide Lantern. They do have Graveyard Hate. 95% of the time, Murktide is going to be on Unlicensed Hearse and Relic of Progenitus, you know? Ed Meekle, 10 months, appreciate ya. So yesterday I was on 1 Lantern, 2 Hearse. I feel like Relic is so much more common than Lantern. Why are people playing Lantern now? Okay, I probably don't want to persist, let them connive into, you know, likely counter magic here. Meagle 10 months, Smokey 28, thank you. Okay. So I think what I'm likely to do next turn is Witch's Cottage back Solitude. Then start off with Solitude, Exile Shredder, Ephemerate. Try to bait interaction there. Well, the fact that they just snapped that off makes me feel not very confident. They also get a connive here. I have to jam, I think. Let's go! Oh, man. Let's go. My thoughts on a mono deck that tries to trees mid with Mirrored and Prestige. I wouldn't recommend it. That card's pretty slow and weak. 3 mana permanents that like slowly accrue value that are like weak to Teferi, Prismatic Ending are usually not that good. It's also nice that Stony pitches, like extra copies of Stony pitches to Solitude too. So my opponent has a Lightning Bolt. I'll block here, then I'll Ephemerate and win the game. Probably would have been okay to just take it too. Oh no, never mind. This is literally lethal. I've been working on a couple Pioneer lists, but a bit more focused on Modern lately. I haven't played Pioneer in like a month. Okay, so we're on the play in the blind. We're 1 land away from reanimating an Archon on turn 3, maybe with a Grief. I think I will. It's very close. I would almost definitely keep this on the draw. If one of these Mulldrifters was a black card, I think it's kind of an easy keep too because I have the Grief, but I don't necessarily have the Grief because I need both. I need all 3 of these to reanimate the Archon. So I'm gonna mulligan that hand, although I don't think it's out of the question to keep. Now we're on 6. Probably gonna go to 5. It's like John Lim's listed Denton. John was on Aethermage's Touch. Okay, let's keep this. I mean, I like John a lot. I just, wondered if he's a good deck builder. Thought he may have had some tech on it before me. Yeah, so maybe I could have held the Mire for a Cottage, but I just have so many fetch lands that I think I'll be able to get a Cottage, and so I can discard my Archon, touch it to the, then put it to the top and touch again. More Murktide? Not more Murktide, something a little bit more interesting. Or one of Teferi. I think I just pass. I'm a little worried about my Tainted Indulgence getting countered, but we'll see. This is the game 3 what happened. We resolved our Persist. They countered our pitch Solitude instead of our Persist. Grinding Breach? I feel like Grinding Breach doesn't usually play Moonsnare, right? I think they're probably like just Guy, Thopter Sword. And we just happen to have a bunch of Stony Silences in our yard. Or in our deck. Ooh, through the land. So now we do need to draw a Witch's Cottage effect. We have 10 more fetch lands and 2 cottages. Total of 11 fetch lands, so I'm feeling pretty likely to find it. We do find it. I don't think I want to Grief this turn. Good, maybe it was good to Grief this turn. I think that they're pretty likely to just, like, Imri again because they don't have Urza mana. Yeah, I thought about cutting the one of Teferi for the first Faithful Mending, but I think the first Teferi is just so good. Obviously, they have some diminishing returns. More copies is fine. The list is just like so tight, it's hard to fit more copies in, too. Okay, so they can tap Moonsnare to the Engineer to replay Imri. Okay, so now we'll Grief. They do have the Urza. They have a relatively dead portable hole too. In their yard, they have Springleaf Drum, Portable Hole, Sword of the Meek. All pretty useless cards. I think I'll still... wow, no. They might attack the Teferi, and I would get both creatures. That's kind of possible. They also might draw, like, their own Teferi or something. I guess I would still... I don't know what I have to do against that, actually. This still seems solid, but I'm getting burned out over enthusiastic about Reanimator before. Do you think this is a deck I consider bringing to a tournament? I've won a challenge with a very similar list to this. I think this is a more powerful version of the list I won the challenge with. I think I'm unlikely in this current metagame to select Esper Ephemerate Reanimator for like an RCQ or something, but RCQs are also like a bit different from Magic Online, where players are just playing like infinite, like the density of like bad matchups that RCQs is crazy, where people just play a huge amount of like Grixis Shadow, Blue-White Control. They play like a higher density of Rest in Peace all the time. Although like this deck is good against 4-color. This deck's good against Living End. But you know, Reanimator by nature is like always going to be a metagame choice. It's never really going to be the kind of deck I think that you can always play in any metagame and just feel like it's always going to be viable. But this deck has also been really powerful. I've liked it. I would recommend it. We're going to play this as a 24-person Pioneer RCQ. Dude, I am going nuts. I'm going nuts. I keep seeing Doomwig and all these people post about their like 24-person capped Pioneer RCQs. They're like, I saw one person post about a 16-person capped limited RCQ. My RCQs have been 100 players, 100 players, and then I did have two smaller ones that were like 46 and then like 30, I think. Which the 31 was really good. The 31 was really good. I was really hyped for that. And then my last one was a sealed 126 player tournament. Like I was just like over the moon to get to play like a 30 person one. It's just so uneven. It's so uneven. It's crazy. I haven't played too many Prismatic Endings here. Played 3 and 1 Teferi. It's just like I think that they maybe should all be. I don't know what the answer is. Like, I think the 100, like the ones that are over 100 should probably have like at least 2 invites, right? I don't know. It's just like Magic is really popular in my area. We've got a popping paper scene, which is fun. It's cool, whatever. But golly, is it just like I'm so jealous of these freaking 16-person RCQs. My area had 4 invite modern RCQ with 20 people show up. Yeah, that's also the thing. Like, Canada has tournaments with multiple invites that are smaller than the tournaments I'm playing with 1 invite. I don't understand. I don't know if that's. I don't know if your area is Canada, but I've also heard that Canada has multiple invite tournaments for some reason that are smaller than the ones I'm playing. So weird. Yeah, I'm taking deck techs today. The channel point ones are always on the timer, though. I feel like I don't really want to Unmarked Grave into Artifact-based Graveyard Hate. I can also just draw Persist to go Unmarked Grave Persist all in 1 turn. Zach, I think 8 months. You no longer think Wandering Mind is worth it in Reanimator? I thought it was only good in like the 80-card version, which was like a lot grindier. I think that version is probably okay, but I like this one more so far. Okay, deck tech for Fjork. I don't know. I would be really interested in like Wizards doing some things different next season, because the system just feels pretty unbalanced to me. Not that like they've ever been balanced. There's always like that's always been the nature of these events, is that some of them are just like absurd, stupid value. Or like super soft, and some of them are like way harder than they need to be. Yeah, same deck from yesterday. Aspiring Spikes, fell off plus L plus ratio, playing the same deck twice in a row. Dude, we've had this same deck tech like 5 or 6 times now. Oh, you're not playing the Vesper Lark. Okay, so you're playing the Thopter Sword package instead of Vesper Lark. I know that this is like, this deck is like certainly kind of the hotness, right? Alright, I think I need to Prismatic Ending the Teferi so that I can Solitude Ephemerate. Yeah, I know that these blue-white decks, you know, I'm playing against variants right now, are popular. I think that they are good. I think that they are good, but there's like no clear best way to build them, and there's not a lot of consensus. Things that I do like here, I do like being on Stoneforge Mystic. I think a lot of the blue-white affinity lists don't like to play the card, but I think Stoneforge grabbing you, Nettle Cyst, just like as a powerful threat, is pretty powerful. It really diminishes a lot of like the usual downsides of Stoneforge Mystic, where your opponent like just kills it and it doesn't get to do anything. Okay, hold on, let me take this turn real quick. So we're gonna go Solitude, pitch Solitude, exile an Esper Sentinel, Ephemerate my Solitude, pay for the other Esper Sentinel. I think has Stony Silence. I don't like the Reality Chip, though. I think the Reality Chip is not good in this deck. It's good when you have Urza in play and tons of mana, but when you have Urza in play and tons of mana, you're ahead anyways. You're ahead anyways. You don't really need to like plan in those situations, and I think the card is pretty weak outside of that. I'd be interested in playing maybe the 4th Urza instead. In the main deck, I'm not in love with Emery in these versions either. I think that Emery is okay. I'm not in love with it. I think that you could play... It's possible Ingenious Smith is better. It's possible that Thoughtcast is going to be better. I'm not 100% sure. Well, they brought in March against me. Very heads-up play. I think Lion Sash sucks. I know that it's like tunable with Stoneforge Mystic. It was my preview card. I have a really soft spot for it. I think it's not good enough to play, unfortunately. I do like you hedging against the Titan matchup with these Ashiok. It's also good against the Valakut Titan decks, which have been popular, but are maybe becoming a little less popular. Yeah, I think that if you like the Emerys, that's fine. I'm not sure what the best version is. Just like nobody else is really sure. It's just so tough to say at the moment. Okay, I'm actually going to Unmarked Grave for Mulldrifter, and then I'm going to try to Witch's Cottage the Mulldrifter back. I'll get the full art one. And then if they want to crack the Lantern, then I can just kind of trade Unmarked Grave for Lantern here. I think that makes sense. And then I guess I'll do it in my upkeep, or their upkeep, just to like make them decide before they get their draw for turn. Yeah, again, like this seems like a totally reasonable way to build it. I'm personally kind of partial to like the mono blue affinity decks I'm working on, like as far as like this mid-range affinity archetype. But this is a totally fine, reasonable deck. I like being on the sword plan. Those are my thoughts. Okay, they do not crack, which I'm happy with. Anything in particular I'd recommend over the Lion Sash? Yeah, more artifact-based graveyard hate, so like a Soul Guide, another Lantern, or something you can get off a Saga. Yeah, I forgot to recommend a change for that card. Okay, opponent's got 2 cards in their hand. Remember you saying yesterday you felt like Goblins was secretly good. I was wondering why, because it felt like it gets wrecked by Fury, which is quite around a bit, isn't it? I was playing a lot of Goblins in... I think I'll keep this on top. A lot of Goblins at the end of the trophy race this last season. I had a really good record with it. I broke the trophy record with it. Goblins is a more grindy mid-range combo deck than it is a creature-based aggro deck like other tribal strategies. You are capable of outgrinding Fury in a way that other tribal decks are not really able to. And I'm usually think that the deck is like hella underplayed. How close am I making a shell LGS just to scam an RCQ invite? It's kind of a funny idea. Okay, 2-0 on the day. Loving the deck. One of the reasons I've been so successful is people have this attitude when they go to deck building. Can you make 8-whack or 12-whack competitive? Make it competitive. Make it work. I don't make anything work. I find things that work, you know? Aethermage's Touch Witch's Cottage is a really powerful and underexplored interaction that, I found, but, I try to find things that are good instead of force things to be good. And I've always found that to be a much better strategy. What are this deck's worst matchups? So, before the Aethermage's Touch deck, I always felt like Grixis Shadow was this deck's worst matchup. That being said, I'm currently 2-0 against it, 2-0, 4-0 against it. Like, Witch's Cottage was maybe more of a factor in that matchup than Aethermage's Touch. We're just, like, putting a Mulldrifter on top, it was crazy against them. We've been beating Murktide. I think we're probably, like, 4-2 against Murktide, 2-0 against Grixis Shadow. Burn's a good matchup, Hammer's a good matchup. Rhinos can be kind of tricky because they have a lot of bounce for your Arc. I think Rhinos is bad. They have a lot of bounce for your Archon. They have Force of Negation. They have Endurance. Rhinos is pretty bad. I think I'm going to wait a turn on this Grieve. At least one turn. Your Rhinos is pretty bad. There's definitely like one other... Oh, Tron. Tron is a scary matchup, which is why we have the Terastodons in the sideboard. Burn is good. Burn has a really hard time beating... Grief is really good against Burn. Archon's really good against Burn. They don't play much Graveyard Hate these days. How's Yogg? I lost my 5-0 match to Yogg recently. Dude, these Stony Silences are nuts. I lost my 5-0 match to Yogg recently. It's probably not that good. They have a lot of, like, they can, like, kind of tank an Archon. Gris is really good against Archon. Kind of regretting not griefing. Yeah, Reanimator always has a really weird... When's the article come out for the deck? I'm going to work on it tonight, tomorrow. Probably comes up by Thursday at the latest, tomorrow at the soonest. Is Unmarked Grave for Echo too memey? Yeah, I think so. It's kind of fun, but very slow, easy to play around. Alright, we'll grief. Hopefully their hand's not Urza Saga land. Okay, it is an Urza Saga. Which is definitely the main card I didn't want to see, but we will go ahead and Unmarked Grave for an Archon, and then hope to draw an Aethermage's Touch or Persist, because that'll get my Archon back before my opponent gets their Saga for any main deck Graveyard Hate. Although, I can also go Teferi, bounce their Urza Saga next turn. And then they also don't have blue mana for their Spellbomb, which is really nice. Anderson, thank you for the 5-pack. Appreciate you. If you want to say anything, you can. But thank you for the 5-pack. It's really nice of you. If you got a gifted stuff from Anderson, make sure to thank them. Yeah, I think stopping them from getting a Springleaf Drum or Graveyard Hate, sorry, not Graveyard Hate. Yes, Springleaf Drum or Graveyard Hate is more important than stopping them from making tokens, so I'll just bounce the Saga. And hope to draw a Persist or Aethermage's Touch. Although Unmarked Grave can get me my Unburial Rites, so they're kind of slow, of course. Yeah, I know it can bounce the Citadel, but I think just stopping in Colored Mana and Graveyard Hate more relevant. Creativity wouldn't be great. I imagine it would be an interesting matchup. Yeah, I don't know who's favored. It's probably very close. Like me having access to Solitude is huge. Them not having much Graveyard Hate is big. Grief is good in the matchup. Okay, they do have a island for Aether Spellbomb now. So we're probably going to have to have our Archon get balanced, which is not the end of the world either. Yeah, I don't know how my opponent has colored chat font. It's pretty cool. Obviously, best draw here is Ephemerate, just kind of a game-ending draw, getting to blank the Aether Spellbomb. Yeah, true MTGO premium, huh? Alright, flashback. Solitude's a good draw. Do you think Blossoming Calm is the best sideboard option for this deck in a burn-heavy meta? This deck has a good burn matchup, so I wouldn't recommend sideboarding a card for the burn matchup. I would be happy to play this deck in a burn-heavy meta. I wouldn't be interested in like sideboarding Blossoming Calm to help hedge against burn, because this deck sideboard. When you play Reanimator, the most important thing is that you make sure that you have answers to all kinds of graveyard hate. That maybe is not what the sideboard looks like, but it is the case. Where Thoughtseize helps you beat Endurance and Counterspells, although Counterspells more so from blue-white control than Murktide. Stony Silence lets you beat Hearse, Relic, Nile, Spellbomb, some guides, sometimes Lantern, but worse against Lantern. Ending lets you beat Relic, Hearse, Rest in Peace, Sanctifier, and Vec. Teferi lets you beat Leyline of the Void and Endurance, and then we have Terastodon for the Tron matchup. So, you know, theoretically these are flex spots, but like Tron is a really bad matchup, Burn's a good matchup, so I think I'd rather have the Terastodons. I just don't think that a lot of people, when you play like really like kind of linear fair decks like this one, they have the tendency to want to play cards like you would play in a Murktide deck, you know. But I don't think you're supposed to approach this deck like a Murktide strategy. What do you say? Outlist looks so tight. Sideboarding with this deck is tricky for sure, but it's kind of an art. Okay, I think I'm supposed to go Solitude Ephemerate here. Yeah, well, I agree the list is really tight. I'm pretty content with where it is at the moment. Yeah. Does anybody know how you could type in purple? Oh, I just realized they're playing the version I like to play, which is cool. What if I ask them? I don't want to distract from the match. Okay, I'll ask them. Okay, gotta kill Urza on site. I think. I guess not. They have no cards in their hand. It's an employee account? Yeah, I think I'm going to be able to try to block the Midnight. My opponent does not know that they type in purple. It's funny. My opponent is unaware that they're a purple typer. Oh, my opponent didn't use... They didn't crack a clue, they didn't make a Saga token. I think that was a mistake. Opponent's too busy figuring out the purple secrets. Okay, we're in hardcast Archon territory next turn, which is always a good place to be. Although, sorry, I should fetch before they needle my Delta. Up to 3 Cottage. No, I'm still just playing 2. I think that you could play the 3rd Cottage over the Teferi Time Raveler, which might be fine. Teferi's good too. That's like really like the one. I think that the Teferi is the only flex spot in the main deck. I think that the rest of the list is super tight. You can't really mess with it. I think that the Teferi can be a Faithful Bending, the 3rd Witch's Cottage, 1 main deck Prismatic Ending. I really want it to be a white card because that gives you at least the 13 white cards for Solitude Pitch. Without it, you are kind of like low on white card count. Oh yeah, this does have Summoning Sickness. Ooh. I think I'm gonna attack with my Solitude. Okay, yeah, this looks like they're playing my list. We can pull that up real quick. I really like this blue affinity deck. It's playing 4 main deck Aether Spellbomb. And so they're going to have Ashiok and Relic post board. The Ashiok's going to be kind of a pain. Really feel like I need to win this game 1, I guess. Oh, I guess the Aether Spell Bomb is not nearly as big of a problem because I could just, you know, recast. They make a Saga token. Make a Saga token. No cards in hand for these Griefs. I think I'm just attacking with this Archon for now. Could be a good case for ephemerating the Mulldrifter. I think like, you know, shrinking the constructs is pretty relevant at least. Okay. So why don't I go ahead and go Witch's Cottage, back a Grief, just cast a Grief to use my mana, have more blockers. And then in my opponent's draw step, I can Aethermage's Touch and take their card. I think it's the first time I've done this. Obviously, I can also hit an Archon or Mulldrifter, Solitude. Yeah, I'll just take the Mulldrifter instead. Born Destructo. Another Construct. Equipping Shadow Spear onto the Construct. Alright, so I think I'm chump blocking here, taking 10. And then I'm gonna ephemerate my Solitude on the upkeep, and I can also persist my Mulldrifter, attack with the Archon, kill a construct. We should be good here. Probably attack with the Grief, leave the Mulldrifter back to chump. Ooh. I think I have enough mana to persist. Mulldrifter and Hardcast Archon, but I'll probably Hardcast Archon first. Alright, that was good enough. Gonna bring in my Stony Silences. So they're gonna have Relic of Progenitus and Ashiok. A lot of graveyard hate post board, which is nice with Aethermage's Touch, nice with the Stony Silence. The Ashiok in particular is gonna be kind of tough to deal with. I don't really think I want Grief to deal with it though. Yeah, I agree that this deck is nuts. I'm really hyped about it. I'm not trying to, you know, be your average content creator, be like, blah, 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 deck's broken, his Aethermage's Touch broken and modern, but I'm pretty hyped. Don't think I want Terastodon. Can we call this deck the Cheese Touch because Cottage Cheese? Just a little bit of a stretch. A little bit of a stretch. But you also, you know, one thing I've learned as someone who builds a lot of decks, you cannot force goofy deck names. Like sometimes, like Rakdos Scam, people really embrace them, but you can't force it. The community just has to embrace it. Teferi seemed okay. Yeah, Teferi's okay. I mean, this is always like the problem with the deck, is like we have again like probably like 75 cards that are, or not 75. Yeah, actually, so we probably you could make a good case for like any card in the sideboard. But I think on the draw especially, it's a little slow, which is why I like to cut it there. But I'm always hoping to hear like different approaches to sideboard plans. I have spent like, I don't know, I feel kind of bad because I've spent a lot of time playing this deck and working on this archetype. And so like I do shoot down a lot of ideas, but that doesn't mean I'm just like not happy to hear them. And not that I'm always right either. But I've spent a lot of time working on this archetype. I won a challenge one time with it, and I'm pretty comfortable in a lot of my sideboard plans. But I do agree that sideboarding with this deck is really like nuanced and interesting. So I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, after years of deck text, Toborg was right all along. Would I say Grixis creativity could be better than 4-color? Could be. I think that Temur, Grixis, 4-color are all like really reasonable ways to build the deck. 4-color has the worst mana, but has the best cards, and then like Temur is more resilient to graveyard hate, and Grixis is maybe the most powerful, but is not resistant to graveyard hate. So I do know my opponent has Ashiok in the sideboard, probably did bring it in. I think I'm still going to Unmarked Grave for a Archon here, which is maybe going to be a little slow, but I kind of feel like I have to use my mana here on the draw after a mulligan. What would I play at Pioneer RCQ this weekend? I would probably play Phoenix personally. I really like the deck, and I haven't been playing much, so I would return to a deck that I'm very familiar with and very comfortable with. But again, like, you know, I think, like, I know that Doomwake really likes Recto Sacrifice, and Doomwake, you know, has been streaming Modern like every day, where I haven't played Modern, or I stream Pioneer every day, where I haven't like played Pioneer in a month, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. You cite out Grief a lot? Yeah, Grief gets cited out a lot. You know, this is kind of comes back to the Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa style of deck building, where it's not like Grief is a bad card, but it's like a card that's like kind of generically good game one, and I think it's worse post sideboard a lot of the time. Okay, they're gonna pop the relic. They are gonna pop the relic. So I've got two options. I can Tainted Indulgence, try to find Archon, and what's really nice about this line is I can then pitch the Aethermage's Touch to Solitude, and then that makes me way more likely to survive. Because right now, if I just Aethermage's Touch into an Archon and I don't draw a white card off the Aethermage's Touch, then I'm chump blocking, right? I go up to 8. The construct shrink down to 4. No, I guess I'm just blocking. I think I'm gonna go for the Persist though. Hey, what's up? Just Athena. Athena. I can also find Ephemerate with this Indulgence.
On your right.
Hello, Athena. Sorry. Okay. I missed. So I guess I go Solitude, pitch Stony Silence, exile Construct, persist Solitude. Pitching Stony Silence feels bad, but it also currently doesn't do anything against their board. And then I can maybe go like Chump Block with Solitude, Aethermage's Touch it into play, bounce it back to hand, replay it. Think Liliana could be better than Teferi. I don't think so, no. This is all okay. This is also something that I found a lot. Like, people just like want to play a billion discard outlets and Reanimator decks in Modern. They're like, but the choke point is not the Reanimator decks. That is not the issue with these decks construction, like, basically ever. It's like that's almost never where we're lacking. It's almost always the case that like what is missing for these Reanimator decks is like another big like payoff, like Aethermage's Touch. Like I'm like 4 Tainted Indulgence I think is plenty. I like Unmarked Grave more than like more discard enablers, and a lot of people think differently about that too. I like attacking here because it kind of incentivizes my opponent to attack into my Aethermage's Touch. Just have to hope to hit here. Yeah, we cannot sack our fetch. I think it's still correct to play the fetch lands. We cannot sack it into the Ashiok. Ooh, my opponent Ashioked 4 cards, 4 non-creatures from the top of my library, which is kind of funny. Okay, Mulldrifter and Solitude. I kind of feel like I have to Mulldrifter here. Yeah, I just have to Mulldrifter. Pending. The other Witch's Cottage is exiled too, so I have no more cottages. Okay, so I think I have to go attack Ashiok, Prismatic Ending the Nettle Cyst. I guess I'm alive. Maybe I just have to unlock my fetches. I Prismatic Ending the Ashiok. This can attack me for 4, but then I can fetch twice, and I can actually cast Solitude on my next turn. I guess. Raised, which is cost so clutch. Yeah, Cottage is nuts. I think that it may be correct to play the 3rd Cottage over the 1st Teferi, but I I don't think you want to like cut the swamp for another cottage. Ooh. So now I can't crack both fetches. Yeah, third cottage is something I'm interested in. I think you have to play 23 lands for it, though. What's the answer to a Moon? Moon is really unpopular in Modern at the moment. It's more common Magus the Moon than Blood Moon a lot of the time, too. So you have Solitude for Magus. You have basic Swamp to Unmarked Grave, Persist through a Blood Moon. And you also have Thoughtseize, Thoughtseize and Grief. But also, like, I'm just not very scared of a Blood Moon. Blood Moon, definitely a card that people hate losing to, but I'm not. I think it makes no sense to prepare for it at the moment either, because it's just not a very popular card. Okay, I'm gonna play for game 3. Hopefully find a Stony Silence in our opener. 2 Persist, Aethermage's Touch. Okay, gonna mulligan this. Close hand. Okay, don't like this, but I think I have to keep. I guess I'm putting back second Persist. Maybe. I think I don't want to put back the Indulgence, because if I don't draw a blue source, I really want to keep the Unmarked Grave. Don't really need the second Persist. Was there a line to cast Mulldrifter to find a white card for Solitude? I don't think that was a winning line. I have Indulgence, Persist. Yeah, I see my hand. I don't have a second land, though. So if I draw a Swamp or a Godless Shrine, I just feel so dumb for putting back Unmarked Grave. And I don't really need the second Persist in the hand, I think. Put back Archon. Well, if I draw a blue source, I'm much happier to cast Indulgence instead of the Grave, though. Just like here. And then what's also nice about Indulgence is I can like play around Ashiok and Relic a bit better too. Bottom Ending? Bottom Ending feels kind of like madness. Yeah, immediately ripped the land. I look into getting Force of Negation and more control heavy meta. I think I'm very unlikely to ever play Force of Negation here. It's kind of interesting, but control is also like a matchup I usually think I favored in, and I bring on Thoughtseize against control, but you could maybe bring in Force of Negation instead. But that would probably require just again a different metagame. So my opponent does have Flusterstorm in the deck. It looks like they're playing my list, so I think it makes sense to Prismatic Ending the Springleaf Drum, so that I can persist my Archon. Then I just go to main phase 2. Can't believe I drew another land too. So lucky. I guess I shouldn't have. No, I started out my Griefs. I always think I still have Griefs in the deck after I set them out. They didn't have the Flusterstorm. I mean, I think my opponent's really likely to concede here, but the line is to go Unmarked Grave for Archon, and then Cottage it to the top. I guess an upkeep Aethermage's Touch is actually not that good, huh? Never mind. I'll just Stony Silence, get a basic Swamp, and then put another Archon in the yard. Opponent with the never concede mentality. Okay, 3-0 on the day. Playing against... What was match 2? We played against Murktide, and then we played against... Oh, it was a Jeskai Thopter Sword deck, and then Mono Blue Affinity. Probably have to keep this on 6. It's definitely not great. Has a lot of good top decks. Has Grief as early interaction. Could draw Ephemerate. Could draw Persist. Draw Mulldrifter. I think I want to Grief on turn 1 to try to find a Dryad. Okay. Titan's an interesting matchup. We were 2-0 against it yesterday. I think historically I haven't felt favored against it, though. But sometimes you just rip the Persist. Do you think Esper, Mardu, Shadow are possible choices now that Luris is gone? I mean, I've played both of them. There's, like, ways to build both decks. I think the Mardu Shadow in particular is underexplored. I really like the Obosh list I had, but it was, like, nobody else did. The Grixis Shadow is also good. If Panda's in the chat, he'll tell you that Esper Shadow is good. White card? It's kind of greedy to ask for, I guess. I'm just happy to kill the Grazer, okay? So hopefully my opponent hasn't drawn a Titan, but I may be able to beat a Titan here. Maybe not. Ugh, love to see a construct made. Ah, beautiful. You can't even attack. I snap off a block here. Well, that's a pretty messed up draw. I feel dirty for this one. But getting them out of cards in hand is really nice too, because they just can't Titan next turn. Yeah, we were running super hot today, which is always, like, you know, part of the requirement of playing Reanimator to some extent. Run hot. Gonna bring in 2 nasty Terastodon, 4 Thoughtseize, cutting the Teferis, the Mulldrifters, and then what was I cutting yesterday? Was it 4th Ephemerate? I think it's 4th Ephemerate because I cut the Drifters. I think this is fine. I mean, it's a white card for Solitude though. I kind of need a density of those. Maybe I cut the Rites. I always cut the Rites and regret it, but I feel like it is, like, really bad against Titan. But I do always cut it and regret it. Okay, this is a good hand. I have Grief Ephemerate turn 1. I think Teferi is better than Rites. Well, I mean, that's I'm not even, like, looking to play a Teferi. I'm looking to play, like, the 4 Thoughtseize. Cut 1 Archon. Cutting an Archon's interesting because you bring in the Terastodons. I think you don't want to do it, but I don't hate the thought. I think it's a fine idea. I'm gonna pitch the Thoughtseize here. Tommy, thank you for the Twitch Prime. Appreciate you. I guess I could have just played the fetch land because there's always a chance that they just, like, have nothing, you know. They don't have nothing. They have 3 good targets for Grief, which I am happy about. Tap to Teleria West. I think we take the Titan. It's kind of close. And I'm gonna pass here. Like, there's a chance that my opponent gets a relic off the Urza Saga if I Unmarked Grave. I'm not gonna play around Pithy Needle. Unmarked Grave for Echo of Eons. For some reason, that's the second time that suggestion's been made today. It doesn't seem correct to include. Seems like way more fun than good. But it is the second time someone suggested it today. Okay, so I'm going to draw step Ephemerate the Grief. Okay, so they don't get to draw a card off the Veil of Summer, but they do get to protect their hand. And then I just get to grief the Summer's Pact anyways, so that's not really so bad. Could a Feign Death be working in the deck? I don't know what that card does. Is that just like the Malika Rebirth, the Undying effect? Because I don't think I'm that interested in that kind of card. You could play one. Yeah, I don't want to trade grief with the construct because I need to ephemerate it because they can just double block. Yeah, I mean you could play one, but I just like again you have one flex spot. I think the Teferi is the best card for the flex spot. You could play a Feign Death, it'd be okay. I have a really hard time finding my fourth land, I guess. I think I actually have to trade grief for the construct now. Working on Dimisha, I love Ashiok at the meta. I would consider main decking 1/2 Ashiok. I would never consider main decking an Ashiok in this deck. I think it would be a reasonable sideboard card where both fills up your graveyard and obviously has some incidental value. But I would never main deck it, unfortunately. So on their instep, I'm going to Witch's Cottage my Terastodon, try to force the relic, and then cast Aethermage's Touch either way. This has happened a few times where like I Witch's Cottage into a relic. Being able to like force the relic is kind of nice, but a lot of players also don't know what's going on, and they just like say okay, and then I go Aethermage's Touch, and they roll their eyes, and I feel a big sense of personal victory. If I find an Archon, I might get Archon instead. I think I just kill Forest, T-West. Yeah, that Terastodon's not blue or black. Oh, they get to cycle. They get to cycle the Veil. Sure. Funny enough, I was gonna hardcast this grief too this turn. Ooh. Kill Relic? I don't know. I don't care about the Relic. Oh wait, this bounces to my hand, so I do have to Ephemerate it here. So guess I'm attacking first. Yeah, I can't give them too many more elephants. I do have the Solitude in my hand though. I'm kind of out of gas after that. I think I'm gonna kill my own Witch's Cottage and probably not their Relic. Yeah, I think I just kill my own Cottage. Maybe I don't even kill the Cottage. Maybe I just have the 9/9. So I can cast Aethermage's Touch, cast Grief. Yeah, I think that's okay. Max Elephants. Now that's the decision of a madman. Kill Valakut on my own. I don't really care about the Valakut though. I think I'm just gonna, chill. I do need another body. Not really. I have the Solitude if they attack everything, but I don't even really need it, I think. I can cast Grief, trade with an elephant. I also have the Ephemerate Rebound coming down if I do feel like I need to reset it all. Okay, so I want to Solitude and Elephant go to 4. Yeah, maybe. No, I'll go to 1. And then I'll Aethermage's Touch in response to the Ephemerate, I think. Although I guess if I like totally brick, I die. Who cares? I'm not gonna brick. No, I don't die because I can just flicker my Terastodon. Alright, so we exile an elephant token. And then now I think I'll flicker the Terastodon. Kill their Gruul Turf, and I'll kill, I think, 2 of my lands at this point in the game. Why not Solitude? I will blow up their land, you know. Pops the relic. He has Cavern, 2 mystery cards. Evil smile. An evil smile here. Although maybe I should just Solitude Ephemerate, kill the elephant tokens. I feel like that doesn't demoralize them nearly enough, though. I have to make sure I inflict maximum psychic damage for the next time I play against this opponent. Having permanence is cringe, I declare. Okay, 4-0. Deck's good. Okay, we have triple Godless Shrine. All 3 of our Godless Shrines. If I knew Solitude Ephemerate was good against my opponent, I'd easily keep. I think I'll keep. Trying to think if my opponent plays a Raveler on turn 1, then I probably want to go Solitude Ephemerate. How's it go in the morning? We're 4-0 in our first league. Liking the deck a lot. I think I'm playing it tapped. Maybe I get Raveler. Suspends Crashing Footfalls. Okay, I was mentioning, we're talking about bad matchups earlier. I kind of think Rhinos is the worst matchup. Oh no, we don't have a blue source in hand. Hopefully we draw one. Yeah, but what's so rough about Rhinos is they have a lot of bounce for your Archons, which is tough. They have Force of Negation, they have Endurance. I think it's your worst matchup. It's obviously like beatable, but probably the deck I want to see least at the moment. Blue source? Let's go. Sometimes you just draw your like one of Teferi and a blue source on the play. Maybe they have a force, right? But I'm feeling pretty good about this draw. They do force, pitching force. Maybe what, Kaito to Reanimator? I think for Kaito to be good, you have to be playing like a lot of cheap creatures. So like I was playing this deck a little while ago, where I was playing a lot. I think you had to play like, because you're on all looters, no Unmarked Grave, you had to play like extra reanimation targets, and so I was playing DRC, Neonate, Shredder, Hacker, and Kaito, so Kaito can, you know, be good. But I think Kaito's kind of can be kind of weak if you don't have cheap creatures to actually like get card advantage with it. Just like a 3-mana looting effect is like really whatever, you know. But it's also like, again, I've said this a lot. Like the issue in Modern for like these random decks is like you don't need more looting effects. These decks have plenty of looting access to plenty of good looting effects. It's always like the biggest choke point has always been for me access to like another good reanimation effect, and so Aethermage's Touch being another good type of, you know, it's kind of like more of a show and tell, but you know what I mean. Like another way to cheat something into play is just huge. It's just like exactly what the deck needed. There's a green creature the Kaito build is Titan of Industry. It's kind of, you know, new card I'm trying out. I don't know if I don't really think it's that good, to be honest. But I do think like in that deck, like because you're on all looters, you also needed like more good cards to loot away instead of just the 4 Archons. Yeah, the thing about Priest is like the next best like reanimation spell, but it's just like so fragile. So fragile. And then it makes your deck weak to creature-based removal, and that's also like one of the nice things is that you're, you know, like this build you get to be really resilient to like Lightning Bolt and stuff. Okay, so Aethermage's Touch or Persist are what we're looking to draw this turn. Mulldrifter's fine, Solitude's fine. Okay. Digital Solitude. I think I'm gonna put another Solitude on top. And then I guess I'm going end of turn Solitude, Exile a Rhino, so I can next turn main phase Solitude a Rhino, attack for 3, gain 3. Because I don't really want to trade the Solitude for the 2/2. As the Touch with Raid had you wanting to go up the creature count by 1 to 3, get that 80% without Cottage. I mean, I want to. I don't think you like. So like, you can cut the Teferi for 1 more creature. I think that the Teferi is the only flex spot in the deck. I think that the rest of the list is really tight. I don't know what like. There's like not another good creature to play is the problem. There's like Mulldrifter, Solitude, Grief, Archon are all good. There's not another good card, or at least not another good card that like pitches to Grief, Solitude. Like you could play like 1 Agent of Treachery and it'd be kind of mediocre, but you could play it. They didn't cast the Bone Crusher Giants. So they have a Violent Outburst, so they're probably going to be dead here. You can play a Priest, but like hitting Priest off of Aethermage's Touch is also kind of mediocre. And so like, and you're also again, I don't know like how big of a deal this is, but you do have to keep in mind that this is a 11 fetch land deck. So like, in theory, you're gonna have fetched like twice on average before you cast Aethermage's Touch, which does give you. I don't know how many percentage points it gives you, but it is like a relevant amount of percentage points, I think. But then also like, you know, you're still like 75% ish around that to hit off Aethermage's Touch without a Cottage, and you also have Cottage, so I think that you just don't need to be that worried about it. You're not gonna hit all the time. It's okay. I think, you know, again, you just don't want to diminish your card quality in order to give you like 2 more percentage points on like non-Cottage touch. Doogie, thank you for the 28 months. Appreciate you. Persist off the top. Persist, please. I meant Marsh Flats. Marsh Flats, please. Okay. I guess I could still technically draw Persist into something. You know, trade here. Yeah. I think this is your worst matchup. They just have like main deck Force of Negation, sideboard Endurance, lots of bounce for your Archons, backed up by, you know, pressure. We do have Teferis. Definitely a winnable matchup. Yeah, against Force of Negation, Endurance, I think you need all the discard. I think you have to cut the Mulldrifters. Ephemerate 4, Unmarked Grave 4. Yeah, Blood Moon 2 is also nasty. We'll prioritize getting our Swamp, but it's gonna be rough. Why do you keep it in Rites? I mean, I keep it as an Unmarked Grave target. Maybe you don't. These games can be like long and grindy. Yeah, maybe better to keep the 4th Grave and over the Rites, or the 4th Ephemerate. I'll try 4th Ephemerate. Ephemerate is actually really important to protect Archon from bounce. I feel like Solitude's medium unless you have specifically Ephemerate, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, against Rhinos, it's just so easy to die to like goofy creatures, but maybe that's fine to... Maybe that's fine to cut the, trim some Solitudes. Why cut the fish? I feel like the games are just too fast for fish, but I could also be wrong. Sideboarding with this deck's really hard, you know. I don't know. It's just... I'm kind of a broken record at this point, but... Every time I play, like, Esper Ephemerate Reanimator, like, historically, it's just, like, a lot of, like, why cut this card, why bring in this card? And I have my reasons, but there's always, like... There's always extra cards that wouldn't be bad in a matchup, you know? Okay, I guess I'll take the both Fire Ices, but then they can Petty Theft my Grief next turn, which should be okay. I can just replay it in a couple turns. I was trying Murktide in my Shredderator build last night. I think it's my favorite variant of Reanimator. Murktide in Reanimator is weird. I don't know, like, I feel like Murktide in, like, these combo decks is so weird, because, like, Murktide's just so much... I think Murktide shines when you're just 1-for-1-ing your opponent constantly. I think it's, like, a lot worse when you're trying to play like this combo game plan and then your Murktide gets 1-for-1 and then you're just like down a resource. I don't know. It's probably okay. Your build is certainly more 1-for-1. Yeah, I don't know. Like also playing like all the 1-for-1s I think is kind of dicey. Because like if you're playing against like Murktide, if you're playing like the 1-for-1 builds against Murktide or Shadow, and your opponents are also playing tons of like effective 1-for-1s, they're always going to be so much better at that game plan than you. They're always going to be so much better at that game plan than you, I think. It's like just so much easier for your hand to be like clunky and awkward and heavy, and you fall behind and you stumble, and then they just totally crush you. Rough. Is Sarah's Emissary considered for Shigedoso creature? So I've historically liked one Sarah's Emissary in the sideboard for like the artifact matchups and sometimes Belcher, sometimes it's mostly just like Hammer Time Affinity Belcher. But the problem is the reason I cut it is because it doesn't play very well with Aethermage's Touch if you don't have Ephemerate. So that's why I cut it. You could keep it. Okay, this is definitely the card we needed. Would Chalice the Cyber be considered a should be over to Fairies? So, I mean, people always want to play, like, more fair cards, you know, or, like, more, like, targeted answer kind of cards, like Chalice or Blossoming Calm. But in my opinion, you just don't have the room, because your sideboard needs to be, like, so dedicated to beating Graveyard Hate. Or at least that's always been what I found to be the best strategy. So, like, all of the sideboard cards, with the exception of Terastodons, deal with Graveyard Hate. And then Terastodon is like extra equity against like Tron and like to a lesser degree Belcher and Titan, but mostly Tron, which is a bad matchup. And so you could cut the Terastodons for Chalices and be better against Rhinos, but Tron is more popular than Rhinos, so I think it makes more sense to hedge for the Tron matchup than the Rhinos matchup, which is still like relatively unpopular these days. Hopefully the last card's Force of Negation. That works too. Tron is more popular than Rhinos, yeah. That's my evaluation of the metagame. Tron is like pretty popular at the moment, or has been the last couple of weeks. Rhinos has been like unpopular, especially in leagues, in tournaments too, for a long time in Modern. No, Tron has become like a lot more popular lately. Eldrazi Tron, Prison Tron, Mono Green Tron are all like popular and played at the moment, by my evaluation. We're somehow in this. Maybe Thoughtseize main phase makes sense because of Violent Outburst. But if they Violent Outburst, it just Ephemerate the Solitude. And then they can't block the Grief. So I don't think I cast this. I'll hold it for like a turn where I think they might have Force of Negation. It's strange that Rhinos is unpopular deck because it's so strong against the field, paper and long. I agree that Rhinos is really good. It is also not a popular deck. I think both things could be simultaneously true. So, Ephemerate right now plays really badly against Force of Negation and any burn spell. And I can play around it with a Thoughtseize. Do I have time, though? Thoughtseize go down to 8. Yeah, I guess I have time. Maybe Teferi. No, I can't Teferi and Ephemerate. I don't have the density of blue-white mana. They did have the Force of Negation. So is it better to Teferi bounce a Rhino than to... I think I kind of like Teferi bounce a Rhino here. I might even want a Solitude to save the... Just Solitude, pitch Ephemerate, get the other Rhino, save the Teferi. Now I'm not going to. I find Rhinos more popular in paper. That might be the case, but like even in paper, it's one of the more fringe strategies. It's like less popular than Living End. I I would definitely like rank it like very low in popularity in paper. My opponent's sitting both at me. Their hand can't be 2 bird spells. We just saw their hand. Just they can easily just block here and take 4. Why did it fall? My opinion. I don't say this lightly, but like I really think it's because it's boring to play. Like Rhinos is easily the most repetitive deck in Modern. It's like more repetitive than Living End. It's just like I don't say this lightly because I think that boredom when it comes to Modern like almost never plays a big factor. But I genuinely think that the Rhinos players are bored of playing it, and it's like this is like I have this opinion because I've heard lots of Rhino players say this. I was also working really hard on Rhinos at the beginning of MH2. I also got really bored of it. Really quickly. It is just like it's definitely fun to play at first and gets like really old really fast. In the same way that like Murktide is overrepresented because it's really fun to play and you get to make a lot of decisions and it's like a fun deck to play over and over and over again because the games can be so different and you get to make like lots of cool impactful early game decisions. In the same way Murktide is overrepresented because it's fun and popular, Rhinos is underrepresented because it's boring and unpopular. And I'm not, this isn't me like, you know, roasting the deck so much as it just like offering, you know, an evaluation on the metagame, you know. Kind of happy to keep in all the Solitudes here. But it is a good deck. It is a good deck. It's a totally playable, good choice. Is that kind of like the same for 4-color? Not as much. Like people really like to play 4-color. 4-color is a like I would say is a fun deck to play. And is a deck that people like to play. Talk about power level versus consistency. You think that consistent decks are boring because they're so consistent? I think that can be the case. I think it's hard. It's hard to like make any sweeping generalizations like that though. But that can be the case. Okay, it's 3 footfalls out of the deck. What do you think about Jund? Jund's fine. Jund's playable. I don't think Jund is like a very good choice for a tournament, but it is fine and playable. And it's kind of an issue in paper too. Like Jund sees very little play on Magic Online, but it does like see a ton of play in paper. And then like 4-color Omnath is like such a good choice in paper because everybody plays Murktide, Omnath, Hammer Time, Jund. That's like every paper deck. And like you have a bad match, you have to like dodge the bird matchup. Maybe you have to dodge some Tron players, but your matchup spread as 4-color is just, it's so sick. I think my opponent's playing around counter spells. I saw your deck Techno Beats or Solemn. I'll take a look in a second. I think I'm casting the Grief here. Okay, I couldn't remember if they had a land in hand or not. You maybe had seen that one before. They did bring in Blood Moon, by the way. So this is 4-color Rhinos. No Yorion. I've also worked on this. Let me see how like different my list is. It's been a while though. This is like 2 trophy races ago. Come on, are you kidding? The 4th? Dude, their draws are just like mono cascade spells. Fuck, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Yeah, I think you have to play Omnath. I think that's kind of the, like, I think no Omnath in, like, the 4-color deck that can support it is just incorrect. Yeah, I was also playing, I don't know that you want to play the full 12 necessarily. I was trying 10 Cascade spells. I was dumb to cut some Violent Outbursts, though. I don't know what I was thinking. But, like, maybe doing something like 3 Ardent Plea, 0 Endurance, 4 Omnath makes some sense here. Sideboard the Endurances. Maybe play 4th Borrower over 2nd Subtlety. Could be okay. Is this gonna be a draw 2? It is a draw 2, wow. basically never happens. Okay, so I will pick back up a Solitude, attack with my Solitude, and then I think try to double block Griefs on the Rhino here. I'm not a big fan of like the Cascade into core Firewalker plan against Burn. I think it's way too cute. I don't think the Burn matchup's as bad. I guess maybe if you play Omnath, if you just play 4 Omnaths in the main, you don't need to have the sideboard plan. It really opens up your sideboard. Thrawn is a meme. Don't play Thrawn. You get to move those Endurances to the sideboard over the Firewalkers. Maybe more. I would probably want like more subtleties too over the Throns. I think these Rest in Pieces aren't good on the sideboard either. You have Endurance. You don't need the Rest in Peace. How's this first control piles? I think very good. So they're out of Crushing Footfalls. So I don't need to be worried about the another Violent Outburst here. Definitely going to play my Watery Grave tapped so that I could hardcast an Archon. I'm 28 cards deep without seeing a single Archon. But yeah, that's how I would build the sorry, I don't know why I tapped so much mana. That's how I would build the 60-card version 4-color Rhinos deck. I think it's good. I think it's underexplored, by the way. Then that's how I would approach it. How do they win now? I mean, they just cast a Fury. I'm really behind. Oh, Endurance and Recascade. Right. Ooh, boy. The perfect time to draw an Archon. This is turn 15. This is turn 15. What the hell? Oh boy. Well, we're going to game 3. I think, we were having some conversations about maybe not playing Solitude, but I feel like that game definitely showed. I think I should just want them. Yeah, I go for the 5-0. I'll stand up, too. I'll stand up. There was, like, several points in that game where I thought I could never win, and then there were points after that where I thought I could never lose, and to points where I thought I could not win again. Yeah, do not call it a comeback. Although, a comeback might be an accurate representation of what happened. This hand never works, right? This hand never works. Yeah, Blood Moon is the only card we beat with this hand. They mulled a 6, though, so we can keep this hand and discard Archon of Cruelty on turn 1. They mulliganed. They mulliganed, we beat Blood Moon. We beat Fire Ice. I think if they keep 7, I never really considered keeping this, but on the mold of 6 in the play, I think it's okay. I think it's fine. I think you keep it. Like, it's just so hard to mulligan any hand that puts an Archon into play on turn 3. You know what I mean? And this hand, like, also, like, plays around Fire Ice, Blood Moon well. They mulled to 5 as well. We lose to Force. I mean, we can draw cards, too, you know? Like, if they force, they're 2-4ing themselves. We can draw more Persist. We can draw Aethermage's Touch. That is one thing I really, really like about Aethermage's Touch is, like, the Persists are just not, like, as premium as they used to be. In the way that you could never, ever, like, not resolve a Persist. You know what I mean? Like, you had to resolve every Persist, but... Like, I have Aethermage's Touch in the deck. I can, Cottage my Archon, cast Aethermage's Touch, and it's going to be fine. It's a good draw, too. I thought your deck played Touch and Cottage, but not that they were too great together. Yeah, that's the idea is that they're great together. Land? No, I'm not playing my land so that I can discard Archon to hand size. That was the whole idea behind this keep. But I hope they don't force Endurance. Yeah, that's the hope. Oh, so they actually can hardcast, huh? Oh, but now I drew a Grief, just drawing spell. Easy peasy. How about Goryo's and Emrakul for memes? Well, I do have a Goryo's Vengeance version of this deck that plays Gristle Brands. You don't want to play Emrakul in your Persist deck, though. Also, you can't Witch's Cottage Emrakul to the top very easily, because if you discard Emrakul, you Cottage it to the top. The shuffle trigger is still on the stack, and you shuffle your Emrakul. Yeah, definitely want a black card on top. If they Blood Moon, I'm going to get a Swamp. If they Cascade, I'll get a Triumph. Touch is an instant? Yeah, but like, how are you discarding Emrakul and then also like resolving Aethermage's touch at instant speed and like in your own instep? It's like 6 mana to Tainted Remedy. It's too much. Man, when people wanted me to mulligan this hand, they didn't consider that I could just draw literal perfects. Oh, they don't have a blue card for force. They also fetched away that they couldn't cast this Violent Outburst next turn. I don't really care if they do Violent Outburst next turn. I'll just take the force so they can't force my Teferi. They can't cast. They have to. If they draw a land for Violent Outburst next turn, I just win this game very easily. This has been like one of the most exciting trophy matches we've played in a long time. Yeah, when considering mulliganing your 7-card hands, perhaps consider that you might draw perfectly. Perhaps consider that the top of your library is just going to be like 3 perfect cards in a row. Terrific, thank you for the 16 months, appreciate ya. And consider your opponent might top deck Brazen Borrower and you solve for naught. Notably, they didn't cast Bone Crusher Giant, but they let me take a draw, so they're not playing around Ephemerate. They drew Fire Ice, I think. Yeah. Not as bad as a Petty Theft, but kind of an annoying draw. But we have a Teferi, get to bounce a Rhino. Gain some life. Another Teferi's nice. Cast Teferi. There's no reason to cast a pre-combat. My opponent's going to respond with whatever they have. Teferi does not have split second. Although maybe it should. Which is why I wanted to block. Wait, you wanted to block? They have Bone Crusher Giant. They have Bone Crusher Giant in their hand. They'll just stomp the Archon. Never block there. Alright, Ephemerate is the best draw of the deck. Continue to draw perfects. We do have a 3rd Godless Shrine to fetch. Is there a world where you fetch Cabal Coffers in this shell since I'm already playing only swamps? Maybe. I don't know, like the problem is Coffers itself isn't a swamp. I don't know how you do the Urborg. It's worth considering. We somehow 5-0, that matchup feels horrible. There's always the nice part about Reanimators. You can high roll the bad matchups pretty well. I'm going to run it back. I'm having a really good time with the list. It's been just a treat. I can't believe we won that game too. I had like really just like thought for sure we were done. Whoa! No way! And we opened a full set. And we got a yellow hat resub. What the hell? What set is this? Crimson. Oh, it's Crimson Vow. Oh, it's Crimson Vow. Okay. Hold on, I think I'm gonna keep the Ephemerate version.